Good morning, valued investors. Well, it's morning where I am, anyhow. I've got something really exciting to talk about today. It is a major improvement on our secondary market tax liens. We've been offering secondary market tax liens for a number of years now. We have made some really cool improvements to it that I would go so far as to say it's almost impossible to lose on the investments in secondary tax liens. So let's jump right into it. It's a lot of details. It's a lot of information. I'll try to go as slowly as possible, but expeditiously as possible so I don't lose your focus and your attention in this. So let's go ahead and jump right into it. All right, so many of you already know me and what I do, so I'm just going to very quickly go through these slides. If you want, you can just use that little scroll button on the bottom of your screen to zip past some of these videos and move on to the meat and potatoes, if you will, of this presentation. I began my career investing in distressed real estate, tax liens, at the age of 23. At age a couple years later, with about 4,000 bucks, I started my own company. It was literally enough to set up my LLCs and put a little print advertising together and get started. Today, we have nearly 1,000 clients. We're recognized throughout the industry as a dominant leader within the industry, and we have been on various broadcasts, various radio shows, various TV shows. We've won numerous awards, blah, 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 blah. So that's who we are, that's who I am, and that's how this business got started. So as I just mentioned, we have been lucky enough to receive a number of awards from those within our industry, which is important in a lot of different ways. I don't want to go on too long about bragging here, but it shows a consistency in what we do, and it shows a reliability in what we do. To be recognized by your peers within the industry says that you're here to stay. So that's something obviously I want to convey to our prospects as well as our investors, that we are here to stay. We've been in business for 17 years. We are the longest running servicing company offering investments in tax liens and tax distressed real estate. So we're pretty proud of that, obviously. We have also this year been accredited with the BBB rating of accreditation. That is an A+ rating. Now, I want to touch on this just for a second. The importance of this is a number of years ago, and a lot of you will be with me on this, I considered A+ ratings with the BBB to essentially be a pay-for-play type of platform. And I believe it used to actually be that. With the ongoing growth of the internet and loudmouth forums, if you will, there became a more important role for the BBB. You can go onto any platform out there, real estate related or not, and say whatever you want about anyone, and it stays there. It costs not thousands, but tens of thousands of dollars to have those illegitimate posts removed. So having a BBB A+ rating, and more importantly, an accredited rating, really helps to discredit that online chatter and the nonsense that's out there. Being in business 17 years, in order for us to get accredited, it took a lot of work, a lot more than even I thought. Because again, I thought it was more or less pay to play. But no, they come in, they look at all your financial documents, they look at the states you operate in, they look for any claims that have been filed against you. They really did a deep down dark search in everything that we do. It was an ongoing process. It was a pretty lengthy process, but we're very proud of it because it exposed that we are able to be an accredited business, and regardless of some of those posts posted by companies that stole our name and contractors that just wanted to trash us, former employees that wanted to try and do something because we had to let them go for questionable activity. It really helps to give us the boost that we need when that happens. So again, that's the importance of the accreditation, and the fact that we were able to get it in an investment environment after being in business 17 years is nothing short of a miracle. Okay, so as I said earlier, the PIP Group invests on behalf of investors. We are a service provider for investors who are interested in purchasing and profiting from distressed real estate. Distressed real estate goes from anything from tax liens to tax deeds, the secondary market, which is what we're talking about today, pre-deeds, which is something we offered as an opportunity in 2017. I would encourage anyone listening to this to go listen to that presentation. And traditional bank foreclosures. Bank foreclosures and fix and flips was by far our most popular investment of 2017. Reason being why is we've all seen the enormous amounts of um, radio spots. Well, you haven't seen radio spots, you've heard radio spots with respect to what's going on in fix and flips and how much money you can make and so on and so on. Okay, so obviously there's some legitimacy to that, but we tone it down a lot. And you can see what we did in fix and flips and those bank foreclosures in our 2017 year in review broadcast. That one seemed to be very popular for both our prospects and our clients, so I'd also encourage you to go watch that. So we invest in all things distressed. Something I like to always tell our investors is that distressed real estate is not sexy. Whether it's a tax foreclosure from a tax lien or a bank foreclosure where we're buying the REO from the bank at auctions and they've just done the eviction within a couple of months, this is what we run into. In the top left screen, that is a tax foreclosure. It's pretty bad. But the one on the bottom right, that's a bank foreclosure. It's also pretty bad. And quite honestly, these two pictures don't really tell the whole story. It gets worse as you turn around in that kitchen and as you go down the hall. What distressed real estate is profitable. It's very profitable. Now, I use this example because it's on the extreme side of what distressed real estate looks like when we go into it. This is not something that we would acquire at a bank foreclosure necessarily, but it could become this from a tax lien purchase. So just a quick rundown on how that happens is when we bought this as a tax lien 2.5, 3 years ago. It was probably occupied. It probably didn't have these band-aids on it. The grass was cut. Somebody was living in it. It looks like somebody's living in it in this picture. But so it was a good acquisition for us as a tax lien at that time. A lot can happen in 2.5 years. So this wound up in our secondary market opportunity, and somebody acquired it. Not one of our clients, but just somebody who bought it off our secondary market platform. She bought it for $13,309.90, and she sold it. She sold it on a contract for deed, and I don't know what the terms are, but I'm going to show you what they would have been if we had serviced it and sold it under a contract for deed. But she sold it for $65,000. So where do secondary market tax liens come from? So there's two types of investors, and you'll catch this in literally every broadcast that I've ever put out there. There's redemption investors and there's property investors. Redemption investors invest in states like Illinois because they have very high penalties on redeeming those tax liens. So if I buy a tax lien for $1,000 at 18% and they come in the next day and pay that, they have to pay the $1,000 in principal plus another $180 on top of it. There's also property investors. Property investors represent probably 60% of all investors interested in buying tax distressed real estate or through tax liens. Either they've caught the coaching programs or the late night infomercials and they see that acquiring property through tax sales is a great way to pick up the properties. I hate the term pennies on the dollar, but let's say for 50 cents on the dollar and sometimes better. So what happens here is the secondary market has the opportunity or creates the opportunity for redemption investors to offload their opportunities in the secondary market and pre-deeds to property investors. So why don't these investors keep the property? I always tell folks at live broadcast that they can't afford the liability, but we're not talking about the liability that they've heard throughout other presentations that day. We're not talking about insurance type liabilities. Somebody hurt themselves on the property and now they're going to sue you. We're talking about redemption investor liability in that they can't leverage more capital if they hold these REOs. So there's a few banks out there, US Bank, Capital One, and a couple others, who actually will loan investors the money to buy tax liens. They have a very, very strict set of rules for allowing them to do that. They can only buy so many percentage of vacant lots. Most of it has to be occupied, residential. A lot of times it has to be owner occupied. Things that are going to make the likelihood of the properties to redeem more likely. So that's what we're talking about. They can't own the REO. They can't take the title to the property. So they offer them through secondary market. They offer them through pre-deed, because if they take the property, that limits their buying power to get more leverage and buy more tax liens. So the process to the secondary market in Illinois, it's pretty simple, and we'll go through this very quickly. And it looks like one of my slides is actually out of order. So taxes become delinquent. We all know that. It's advertised for sale, and it goes to the public auction. There's a redemption and a maturation period. So redemption is how long they have to redeem the lien. Maturation is when the lien matures and you're able to foreclose. And then you initiate the foreclosure and quiet title action. So what has happened here with the secondary market is that we've reached the redemption and maturation period, and they're ready to start the prove-up process. So with the prove-up process, what we do is we reassess the collateral property. I showed you that one example that still went through secondary market, and that investor made a ton of money on it. But before we do anything, we want to look and make sure that the property we bought as a tax lien is still a property we're now looking at as a foreclosure. So we do a reassessment and determine everything that's going on. At the same time, and this happens a lot, we're contacting the owner, the occupant, we're notifying them of what's going on, we're trying to come up with terms to negotiate, a quicker sale or a quicker turnaround if they're renting the place, and we can do an owner finance type deal, those kind of things. Then we go to our clients and say, okay, get into the system, select which ones you want to take to foreclosure, select which ones you want to go to secondary market, and we'll go ahead and we'll try and get those sold on secondary market. The foreclosure and prove up is started. So this process is when things get really quiet with our investors. As we do the foreclosure and prove up process, a lot is going on behind the scenes. We try to update our clients on the platform of what's going on, but again, it's a long process. But essentially what we're doing is we're quieting the title, we're getting it prepared for the hearings and deed transfer. And again, we're doing more owner-occupant notifications and terms negotiation. This goes on and on and on throughout the process, whether we're doing it, whether it's done through legal publications, whether it's done from the sheriff knocking on the door. Okay, so we are into the foreclosure and prove up process. As you can see, we're still doing notifications. We're pushing through the processes that are involved, and you can see there it says 9 months. So from the time you invest in a secondary market tax lien, 9 months is about the amount of time that it's going to take us to get it to the hearing and essentially have an order for deed granted. And as I said, there's a lot going on behind the scenes to make that happen. But essentially, from your perspective, as you invest in the secondary market lien that you want, and then we initiate and we start all this process and we take it through, and then the order for deed is granted by the judge. Once the order for deed is granted by the judge, then you are liable for the back taxes. You record the deed and you make money. So as this process is going on, you may have, or we may have on your behalf, already set up owner financing options, contract for deed options, rent options, fix and flip repair estimates. A lot could have happened between the time that the order for deed is becoming granted to actually recording it and making money. So that is essentially the process of secondary market tax liens. Now let's take a look at. All right, guys. Now that we've gotten through the processes of understanding what the investment is, let's take a look at some examples of how all of this plays together. I am a looky-loo versus a listen-loo type of person, so seeing examples for me works a lot better. So what we're going to do is we're going to use this exact same property and we're going to put it through different scenarios. Those being if it redeems within a certain period of time, what you're going to pay, when you're going to pay it, how you're going to pay it. If it redeems at a later date, or if you're successful through foreclosure. So we're going to use the same example on all of them. So to get started, this lien is currently earning a penalty of 90% in interest if it's redeemed. Your purchase price on this investment would be $4,664.89 if you were to buy this in the secondary market today. So now let's go through all the different scenarios. Now, I've just given you a quick synopsis of how this works. So let's break down some of these definitions a little bit more so it really sinks in. So the tax amount that you're going to see is the initial amount paid for the lien against the property at the tax sale. So that's how much the certificate shows. The lien purchase price that you're paying is the initial amount paid for the lien against the property plus 20% in interest. So that's going to be paid back to the original investor. The non-postable fees. This is the biggie. This is the biggie to understand. It's the real kicker that for one made foreclosing on properties in Illinois initially challenging because you don't get it back, and then even through secondary market, if it was redeemed, there's the potential for loss. That's why I'm so excited about how we've changed things this year, because you still pay the full amount of the non-postable and postable fees, but we've kicked it over to the back end, so you're not paying it until there's actually a successful foreclosure. So the risk of loss on principal essentially doesn't exist anymore, which makes these secondary market tax lien purchases awesome. So the non-postable fee. Fees associated with foreclosure of the lien, which are non-refundable. If redeemed during the foreclosure at any time, this amount is lost. Non-postable fees are professional fees, like I mentioned, such as attorney's fees. Essentially, it is the attorney's fees. If the PIP group is servicing your secondary market foreclosures, all but $500 of this cost is paid by PIP, and the balance of such is invoiced through the course of the foreclosure. So essentially, we're not going to bill you the difference of the non-postable fee until we're creeping closer to you actually owning the property or having a successful foreclosure go through. If the lien is redeemed in the process, the PIP group forfeits the balance or the difference. No purchaser of secondary market liens will have a loss of principal due to the redemption of a lien in foreclosure. So again, it's nearly impossible to lose money with the way we have set up the secondary markets now. So if you go through, you can see the non-postable fee is $1768.93. In the previous slides, I showed you that you're only going to pay $500 of that fee right now, and we're going to collect the difference on the back end. Your total investment in this property, which is an owner-occupied condo who says he's going to go pay the taxes, which we know is not going to happen because we've done this thousands of times. So your total investment to own this property is going to be, as if it were today, is $13,037.35. Now, I say as of today because taxes will continue to see some penalties as things increase. Non-postable prorated balance. That's the difference in non-postable fees which are due upon the purchase of the secondary market lien versus which are due when interest and penalties are increased or order for deed is granted. So again, these non-postable fees are not going to be billed to you with the exception of $500 until you have an order for deed. So it's low risk. The risk of exposure here is if this owner doesn't redeem and we take it into foreclosure and we foreclose on him and we're unable to negotiate any good terms and he burns the place down. By that point, we've already got it insured. So there are other provisions in place for us to offer protections, but that's going on the extreme. But yeah, we've seen it happen in the past, and we've done again tens of thousands of these. So stuff happens. So the postable fee deposit. So this is the one you're getting back. Postable fees are posted to the redemption total and refunded on the redemption of the lien. Postable fees do not earn interest or penalties if the lien is redeemed during the foreclosure process. Postable fees include but are not limited to court costs, sheriff services, legal notice, etc. Postable fees may increase or decrease from the deposit amount depending on the county and the processing cost. So the fee deposit is $1,800. Typically, a sheriff's service is $75. If it takes him 10 tries to get out there and serve the lawsuit to the occupant or the homeowner, that's $750 where we had it budgeted for $75. So that's just an example of how your postable fee cost could potentially increase or decrease. If we're successful on the first try, then you're going to be right around $1,800. If we're not, it could potentially go up. But again, these are postable fees. If it redeems, you get it back. But it could potentially increase your overall investment or acquisition cost of this property. So here we're just looking at how this process works. I'm a visual guy, not a hearing guy. So I like to see the numbers, not hear the numbers. It's how I understand things. So I like to illustrate for our investors. On the first this is a redemption report. So on the first one here, you can see the lien was initially bought in November of 2014. And you can see by going all the way over to total fees, it's $116.48, 49 cents. I can tell by looking at this that no foreclosure was initiated in the process. For whatever reason, the owner didn't want to foreclose on it, and it redeemed anyhow. It redeemed right before the tax sale in 2017. The interest was 108%. That's what he earned on the amount of the principal he had invested for the last 2.5 years. Now, on the following three, I can see he did foreclose. If you go back over to total fees, those are the postable fees that you see there. So his amount invested there was, $656. Again, he earned 108% penalty on the initial tax sale amount, but he didn't earn anything on the postable fees that were paid. So that gave him a refund back of $2647.63. So he got those funds back for attempting the foreclosure, but he didn't make any money on the investment of that $1,800 deposit, and we're going to illustrate how that works next. Oh, no, we're not. We're going to talk more about definitions. So back taxes. Back taxes are an estimate of the taxes owed as of this date, and I did mention this earlier. This amount will increase every 6 months. The amount you pay should you get deed is likely to be higher. So today the back taxes are $52.98.79. If you bought the property or we had an order for deed sitting in our hands right now, the total cost to you would be $13,037.35. And your purchase price, your investment price would be $46.64.89 to start that process. Okay, so let's illustrate how that works. Again, we're talking about how the laws in Illinois work. So it impacts the back taxes every 6 months, and we'll share that with you in just a minute as well. So if you bought this lien and it redeemed, and you start the foreclosure process, and it redeems in, well, today is February, so if it redeems before June 3rd, your total investment here is going to be the original lien cost, the penalties and interest, the purchase price, and the non-postable fee. So right now we're only charging you $500 on that non-postable fee. So if it were to redeem in the foreclosure process, you would earn on your total investment in the next 1 to 3 months 37.2% in interest. That's net interest back to you. So you would want to try and annualize that, the numbers are very good. Again, this is why you really can't lose with buying secondary market tax liens. However, don't forget about the postable fee deposit. You get it back, but it's still an investment, and that portion of your investment is not working for you, i.e., it's not making you any money. It's essentially a parked car. It's just sitting there, and it's being used up for processes in the foreclosure process. However, it's still part of your investment. So we want to calculate what your return is actually going to be should it redeem in this process before June 3rd. So you putting that postable fee deposit into play, your redemption amount, the profit you're going to make net back to you in 1 to 3 months using that number of $1,800 actually becomes from 37.2 down to 18.9. Still really, really, really good return for between now and June 3rd. So after June 3rd, the numbers get really interesting. And again, it's the way the laws are set up in Illinois, because every 6 months the taxes increase. So now you're going to be going up from that 90% interest it's earning right now up to the 108% interest it's going to be earning after June 3rd. So if you take that lien purchase price on the left, you're looking at 52.2% in the next 4 to 9 months. However, again, don't forget about the postable fee deposit. Still, the numbers look fantastic if it happens to redeem in foreclosure. You're looking at 45.6% profit on top of your principal should this redeem in the foreclosure process. Now, again, this is all new this year. We have never in the past been able to offset those non-postal fees to the backside. So in years prior, there was the potential risk of loss if it redeemed during the foreclosure process. The wins were a lot better, but what we've essentially done is just negotiated far better terms with our attorneys. We have a lot of buying power because we have a lot of foreclosures. So we were able to come up with some terms that are essentially win-win for all parties involved in this process, and this is the results of it. So it's a phenomenal investment for our investors. So very quickly, just to talk about how that 6-month rate works. So in the state of Illinois, maximum bids are 18% penalty. So that is on the tax lien amount for each 6 months. What you do is you negotiate and you bid down on the taxes. So it's 18, 10%, and so on. If you get it at 18, if you bought it at 18%, you get 18% up to 6 months. After 6 months and a day, that becomes 36. After 12 months and a day, that becomes 54, and so on until you're up to 108% after 30 months. And I illustrated for you how that works. All right, so we've talked process a lot. We've talked about what happens if it redeems and all the wins if it redeems during the foreclosure process, your costs, what the definitions are, and so on. So let's talk about it if it were a successful foreclosure. Okay, so if that were the case, you're looking at the total purchase price, the remaining non-postable fee, the back taxes as they are today, and the additional taxes plus recording costs, giving you a total investment of $13,037.35 as if it were done today. So taking that into consideration and taking the way we have restructured things, using the same property, your purchase price today, the amount you would pay today to initiate foreclosure and start the process of owning this particular condo in Illinois would be $46,6489. You pay the remaining balance of this amount when you get the order for the deed. So again, the amount is going to increase a little bit. We've kind of taken that into consideration based on the taxes. We're thinking they're going to increase a bit, not terribly. So you come up with $13,037.35 minus your initial purchase price that you would pay today to initiate this process, giving you a balance owed when we record the deeds and we have a successful foreclosure of $8,372.46. Thus, your total investment of $13,037.35. Now, I just want to stress again, That amount is going to change. It's not going to change a lot, but it is going to change because the taxes are going to increase a little bit. There may be another tax sale involved by the time we take deed. So just keep in mind it's going to be this number to 15,000-ish. So continuing with definitions. The total market value, as I mentioned earlier, is calculated by the PIB group based on the estimated market value minus a depreciation of 17.5%. Now earlier I said 25%. It actually is 25%. But the way the calculations work in Illinois is their estimated market values are a percentage of their assessed values. So it's a lot of, mumbo jumbo, if you will, but essentially we're depreciating by 25%. So our total market value that you'll see on anything that is on our secondary market platform is going to be adjusted with those numbers. Now, if you take that particular property and you go to any of the online options to get a valuation, you're always going to come up with something different. That's just how their little bugs or their little spiders find data and spit out numbers. So as you can see, top left, Realtor.com says this property in its current state is worth $57,524. Redfin takes it a little bit farther. They say it's worth $56,567, but they also show that it sold in 2016 for $35,000. So with all these lanes sitting out there, it was an internal type of conveyance on the deed because none of the taxes were paid. Nothing was. It wasn't a warrantable title that was transferred because we owned liens on it at that point. So it could have been the mother sold it to the son. Who knows? There's all kinds of scenarios, but we know at that point it sold for $35,000. And remember, we're saying it's worth $26,000. Our valuations, as I mentioned, are almost always below what you could actually sell it for you. In this example, we know it will sell for somewhere between our valuation, the last sale valuation of $35,000, and $55,000 being ultra conservative. That's an over a 100% margin of error. We get that, but it's in the right direction. What we want you to see is, okay, here's a $15,000 investment, but I could make another $12,000 on top of it in as little as a year. That's a heck of a good return. So when we actually get to that stage and we say, hey, it's not worth $26,000, it's worth $35,000, or it's worth $45,000, then it becomes a real knockout home run, and we are exceeding every potential expectation you could possibly have. So that's definitely something to keep in mind. I've showed you $26,000 throughout this. So that is the number. That's the hard number we like. If we decide to get in there and do a fix and flip, obviously that's going to change things as well. We know that similar condos after repair in this neighborhood are selling for about $65,000-$70,000. But we're not going to show you those numbers. We're going to show you what's there today and what's there now. Okay, so when online valuation technology came out a number of years ago, I would be the first to tell anyone to run as far from it as they possibly can. And I still say that today because there's so much misinformation that's in it, and it's next to nearly impossible to really come up with a comparable value of what something is worth. Using this example, you have a nearly a 25% variation on the valuation of these exact same properties, which appear to have been taken by Google on the exact same days. Redfin says it's worth $67,512. Realtor.com says it's worth $84,300. So we know somewhere in there it's worth at least $50,000 and hopefully on the higher side of the $67,000. They all use different tools and different data gathering methods to come up with their valuations. And the systems are very, very flawed. But they're again, it's good for a baseline. It's good for a really good baseline of what the valuation is going to be. But for people who buy secondary market, never look at the high number, and almost every single one does. Always look at the low number, and then even take that low number and drop it down a little more. And just to continue on, do your homework. This is a great example of why this software can be a bit of a challenge. So these are, I'm showing you all examples that are in our secondary market. Don't just go in and say, oh wow, look, this one's awesome. Yes, they're off by over 100%. One says $245,400. One says $130,177. How can I possibly lose on this? This is going to be a $20,000 investment for me. I'm going to get rich on this one. Not so fast. These valuations are based on the homes that are being built in the neighborhood right now, not the vacant lot that you would be foreclosing on. Does your vacant lot have value? Absolutely. More value than some of these homes because it's actually on the golf course, not across the street from the golf course. However, it's not going to be worth $130,000. It's certainly not going to be worth $245,000. So if you're not using our services, do your homework and find out what these lots are selling for. If we're hired to handle the servicing for you, we'll make that determination for you before you commit to investing in this particular secondary market lien. So we've already done it for you in this round. Your investment in it is not going to be $50,000. It's far less than that, and I'll give you those numbers in just a minute. But for the lots in this neighborhood, the lot on that $245,000 home that is not on the golf course, it sold in November of 2017 for $38,250. So if you were the one acquiring this secondary market tax lien, and because it is on the golf course, it's worth probably closer to $50,000, $60,000 because it's on the golf course. So to get started, all you really have to do is just go to our website. You'll go into the website, and if you want to take a look at our monthly passive profits, you can do that. If not, all you have to do is go up to the foreclosures tab, click on the foreclosures tab, which is going to give you a drop-down window where you can select the secondary market tax liens. Once you get in there, you can see what is available on a given day. It changes constantly. People are in there buying, people are in there listing. So what's there today may be gone tomorrow, and if you don't see anything in there today that interests you, you might see something tomorrow. So I would definitely recommend check back. Secondary market tax liens, one thing I haven't stressed, it's a limited window of opportunity. We have to make these commitments to these foreclosures before May, June timeframes. Otherwise, that window closes and we cannot go back in and initiate foreclosure. So once they're gone, and they won't be back around until this time next year. And again, once you get in there, you're going to have property search parameters to look in. When we have secondary market tax liens, we remove all the other stuff that's in there and only promote the secondary market tax liens. So any time of the year other than when we're marketing secondary market tax liens, you can actually go in and you can find other liens or other properties that are listed by other vendors that are in our database and on our platform. But once you go in here, you find the properties, you have more interest, you click request details. That sends an email to us answering any questions you have, and that essentially starts the buying process to buy the secondary market tax liens. Frequently asked questions. If this is such a great opportunity, why doesn't the PIP group buy them for themselves? That's the first and primary question that always comes up. First, we are a service provider to our investors who purchase these tax liens. Profiting from their decision to sell them on the secondary market is a conflict of interest. So if we were to, if a client said, hey, you know what, I don't want to foreclose on this lien, and we had some kind of conversation that said, yeah, based on the circumstances, maybe you don't want to foreclose on that lien, but let's list it on the secondary market. And that client said, well, no, how about PIP buys it? And we said, okay, yeah, we'll buy it. And then all of a sudden we made a $100,000 profit off that lien. That is a colossal conflict of interest. So we don't do that. It doesn't happen. We work very hard to sell their interest in them, but we will not invest in them ourselves. How do we make money selling the investment? Secondary market tax liens are part of a service agreement with our tax lien investors. As a result, the fees paid to service the liens has already been paid. So we've already made our money on these. So there's no markup for you to acquire these. We're selling them for what they have into them plus 20% interest that they're going to get for them. It's already been described. If you choose to hire the PIP group to service your acquisitions in the secondary market, we then make this process passive for you. And once we liquidate or sell the investment or rent it out, however the next steps go, we are paid a performance bonus on the net profits you make from the investment. So that's how we can make money on the secondary market tax liens, but you don't have to hire us. You can just buy the secondary market tax liens like that one lady did and do it all yourself. As I mentioned, there's a small window of opportunity for secondary market tax liens. Once it's done, and it won't be back until next year. So how can we help you? Well, we handle everything from the legal work to the repairs to the management to the evictions, tenancy, resale. It's really up to you. If you want to do it yourself, you're more than welcome to do so. The price we give you is the price you pay. If you only want to have us help you through the foreclosure process and then you take it from there, we'll do that too. So it's really up to you how much you want us to help. All right, guys, just to wrap things up, just as a reminder, distressed real estate isn't sexy, but it is very profitable. We're very excited about the new way we have set up the processes on the secondary market tax liens in Illinois. It's made it literally almost impossible to lose money. So we're very, very happy and very excited about that and looking forward to watching that process play out under the new policies this year. Now, I did spend a lot of time talking about one specific property to keep things kind of simple for you to understand all the processes that are involved. There are a couple more slides that are going to follow this, and in those slides I'm not going to talk about anything. I'm just going to let them run for about 10 seconds. It's just a few more examples that are also available in different areas, different tax brackets, well, brackets, I should say, earning different sets of penalties and time frames. So thank you again for listening, and we look forward to hearing from you with regards to the investments in our secondary market tax liens. Thank you very much, and have a great day.